What is up, everybody? I hope you are having a fantastic evening. 49ers are on a bye, riding high. Hell of a record at the bye. God, that all rhymed. That was really good. All off the cuff, by the way. It's Tuesday, which means we got a banger show. We're going to talk about what the 49ers look like to this point. We're going to talk about their path to the number one seed, plus a bunch more. We will hit it all after the intro next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Tuesday, which means I got my guy, So Real, Sunil, in the building. What's up, Sunil?
Man, hope you had a very happy Thanksgiving. And man, the number 1 seed and the number 7 seed in the NFC right now, Jesse, all have the same amount of wins. That is insane.
That's crazy. It's crazy. The differ, yeah. That's and the AFC is just as tight. Like the NFL right now is absolutely crazy. There's a lot going on. There's a ton to talk about. We only have a short amount of time. So let's first take a little bit of inventory about where we are at. Let's talk about some underrated moves that have really impacted this Niners season. You know, it's interesting because free agency came and went. No major signings. In fact, they lost a lot more than they seemed to gain. Then you have the trade deadline. It was the quietest trade deadline that we can remember in quite some time. Not necessarily what we expected. Yet there are moves that this team has made, some of them, you know, via signing free agents or trades, what have you, that have really impacted this team. What moves in particular are you looking at when we look at the under the radar moves?
Yeah, and I think under the radar is key because I think obviously Mac Jones is the best signing that they had in the offseason. Obviously, without Mac Jones, you know, this team doesn't have the chance to be, you know, where they are right now and really, you know, ascending, I would say, based off of just how everybody's starting to get healthier but you know, the team looks better week after week. But the underrated, I mean, a guy like a throwaway guy like Sky Moore, right? To me, coming in and basically giving us a threat in special teams that I don't think we've had in the Shanahan era, right? You think about, you know, the joke when it came to, you know, special teams with Shanahan is just fair catch it, right? When it was, you know, Taylor back there, or even, you know, they started putting Debo back there, but Sky Moore has had some very timely, you know, punt returns that have put, you know, Brock Purdy, especially, you know, I think he's had at least one in the last 2 of the 3 games that have given Brock Purdy basically, you know, no field to have to gain to get into the end zone, and has really helped kind of spark the offense and make those, you know, what the team had in the past based off of all the turnovers they were able to get in those years where Jimmy G was able to, you know, have a lot of success on this team. And even when Brock Purdy was having a lot of success and making deep playoff runs, the defense would always give the offense, you know, short fields and great field position that helped the offense score as much as they did. The defense isn't doing that as much this year, but to have special teams come in and do that, and Sky Moore is a big part of that. Obviously, bringing in the new special teams coordinator has to be a big part of that. I think that's just something that has, you know, really changed and given the 49ers an edge. I think they're ranked 2nd in special teams right now, which is something that has never, like, the 49ers have always been last, and to be that near the top is pretty amazing. And I think very low key move. I think people looked at Sky Moore and was just like, what is he going to do as a receiver? But he's really made a huge impact in special teams. And, you know, that's I think that's a low key. I know I give a lot of I give a lot of criticism to John Lynch for what he's done in the first 3 rounds, but some of these additions through the trade market, these low key moves, have made a big impact. Now, is that job saving impact? I wouldn't say yes, but definitely, obviously, a great move that he deserves credit for.
Well, and it started off rough for Sky Moore too. A lot of fielding punts inside the 10. It's like, what are we doing right now? Like, it's just some bad decision making. And then he wasn't doing anything as a receiver. It's like, God, did they waste a draft? I get it's a low draft pick, but did they waste a low draft pick? But man, he's really come on strong. And this is the first time that I can remember since Ted Ginn Jr. that we actually have a kick returner that is worth their salt. And Sky Moore has done a fantastic job. Major difference maker. I mean, he's flipped 2 games immediately just by field position. Started out against the Cardinals, almost ran one completely back. He had one against the Browns. And I believe he's had at least one other one where it was a big return. So yeah, Sky Moore is making a major difference. I had your list here, and I'll let you go with one next, but I had to add. So let's make sure that we reiterate. Like, to us, we talked about some of the bigger signings that are pretty obvious, but like Robert Saleh doesn't fit into this category. Eddie Pinheiro, I don't even think fits into this category. Everybody talks about him and how big that was. So those are the types of guys that we're leaving out here. But Kendrick Bourne, man, that Kendrick Bourne pickup was massive. I know it was short lived, but that's what allowed Mac Jones to really ease into this offense. I mean, that's a guy that he had played with. He was very comfortable with. And when they went in and played in the Rams on Thursday Night Football, and you had no Jennings, no Pearsall, no Ayuk, no Kittle, he had one guy that he trusts, and that was Kendrick Bourne. And Kendrick Bourne went absolutely bananas in that game and really helped the 49ers get over the hump against the Rams. And he had another game or two that was massive as well. Now, with Brock Purdy, not so much. He had the game against the Jags where he had a ton of drops, and they're just not on the same page. But, if we're going to give a lot of credit to what Mac did, a big part of that was really Kendrick Bourne and those two guys having played together and being in sync. And so I think that Kendrick Bourne signing was absolutely massive as well, although it was short-lived. But without him, the 49ers absolutely are not where they are at going into the bye.
Yeah, and I mean, we could keep that list going with former New England Patriots that have come in and made a mark on this team with, Keion White, right? So with Keion White coming in and really coming in and being impactful on a defensive line that was getting no push, right? No pressures and coming in and being like, you hear his name in big plays, whether it be stopping the run or pressuring and getting to the quarterback. And Keion White, and the other guy I had was Clelin Ferrell, who was a 49er, right? A lot of people forget Clelin Ferrell was a top 5 pick with the Raiders. I think he was picked number 4. A lot of talent, obviously, to be a first-round draft pick, and came to the 49ers, had a little bit of success, but, I think he's had 3 sacks in the last, 2 games or something like that. Like, coming in, and really giving the 49ers defensive line some push. I think those 2 acquisitions have been really impactful. And the 49ers, obviously their defensive line isn't anywhere near where we thought it was going to be. And a lot of that is due to injuries, if not all of that's due to injuries. But they were getting nothing, Jesse. And I think that the resurgence of this defense, their ability to get more turnovers, their ability to really keep the scoring down. I know you blame that on the quarterbacks that they've played, but I think coinciding with that is the defensive line actually getting to the quarterback and making getting a push there, getting some pressures that are making the back end of the defense better and more opportunistic. So once again, I've been very critical of John Lynch, but those 4 acquisitions we just mentioned have been really key acquisitions to where this team is where they are. I would say if he'd done better drafting in the first 3 rounds, we wouldn't have to worry about these late round, kind of throwaway picks that have come in and made an impact. But it is what it is, and this is what we have. And I think they've been surprisingly good.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Coach and I did a show yesterday, and I'll ask you the same question because it was pretty clear to me what the grade needed to be. And it wasn't a topic, but um, do you agree that at this point in the season, with all the injuries, the 49ers record, what it is going into the bye, if you were to just strictly grade them off of what has happened so far, that anything other than an A plus 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 would be uncivilized?
This is by far Kyle Shanahan's
Yeah.
best coaching year ever, right? I mean, we're seeing other teams, Jesse, with injuries that you see the Cincinnati Bengals, you see even a team that with the quarterback we both are very high on, Lamar Jackson, just being nicked up a little bit. You're seeing what's happening over there, and and to see what this team has been able to do is incredible, right? And we're going to talk about it later on, but the fact that this team, with all their injuries, whether it be likely or not, has a path to be the number one seed in the NFC. And when you think about who they've lost, and what they've had to overcome to get to this point, it's remarkable. And this coaching staff has to get a lot of credit for basically making lemonade out of what a lot of people would consider lemons.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we had another topic that I'm going to scrap here just because we had not a super chat, but somebody in the chat come up with a really good question. So we'll get to that in a minute. We got to build up to it, though. I do want to talk about a topic that I don't even know if we got to last week, but it was a part of the conversation we were originally going to have. And even if we did, I think it's worth talking about again, just because of the way things have played out with the whole Brandon Ayuk situation. This gentleman was certainly a big part of the news with Myles Garrett and Shelby Harris talking a little bit of trash about him and unhappy with the way that he carries himself on the field. And that is, Jawan Jennings. Do we think that the 49ers should extend him or are going to extend him this offseason? Like, what's your opinion on this one? Because I think if we were to have been asked 3-4 weeks ago, it would have been like a resounding absolutely not, right?
Right.
But things have changed. A lot has changed as far as the trajectory of this team and the future of this team. His play is really amped up as well. So what do you think? Should they? Will they?
So, I mean, obviously, with BA situation being as it is, I think both of us are on the same page where we don't see a path where BA comes back to this team, right? I think that's a foregone conclusion. So you look at the receivers that are left, right? And you got Ricky Pearsall, you got Jacob Cowing, where we don't know what he is, and a whole bunch of people we haven't seen, right? Jennings is older. Jennings, I don't know if is a bona fide one, but Jennings is Purdy's favorite receiver, a wide receiver. And if you're building this team around Brock Purdy, which this team has been adamant that they're doing, I think you have to have something, right? You have to have someone there, right? You can't just go in with a whole bunch of unproven receivers, especially with a team that's performing the way that they're performing. So for me, Jesse, I think they would have to. But I also know this team, and based off of what they did this offseason, they're not going to pay him maybe the money that he's looking for, right? So I think I think that in an ideal situation, there would be a win-win situation for both the player and the team, where they could settle on a number that makes sense for both. I think this team is better if Jennings is here, only because we don't know what that unknown is, right? We both think that they're probably going to draft somebody higher in the draft, but they have a number one pick with Ricky Pearsall that is yet to be determined if he could be a bona fide one. But I think you can't go in with the cupboard as bare as it is without Jennings.
Okay, let me ask you this, because this wasn't on the docket either. Do you think they're going to spend a first or second round pick on a wide receiver now as well?
Yes. I mean, it's Kyle Shanahan, right? Kyle Shanahan's side of the ball. He's not going to go in without that. I mean, and I mean, they do it all the time, right? This is something that they put as a premium. Like they like drafting wide receivers. They've drafted a lot of wide receivers in the first few rounds. Definitely within the first three, Jesse. I could guarantee you that there's going to be a wide receiver drafted in the first 3 rounds. Yeah, but they have so many holes with the offensive line and things like that. But I do think this draft is going to be more offense than defense, and I don't know if there's anybody like in the free agent market that comes in and doesn't require a lot of money that's going to be an impact player.
Yeah, Hugo says, JJ wants 20 plus. It's not going to happen. I highly doubt that that's what he's going to want this offseason. I think coming off the season he's going to know that that's not a possibility. And I think this is as much up to JJ as it is the 49ers. I could see a scenario where the 49ers say, hey, why don't you go figure out what your market is? Come back to us. Let's see if we can get a deal done. That way you at least know your worth. A lot of players want to be wanted as well. They want to at least have that facade that they've gone out there and shopped their services around to see what's available to them. So I could see a scenario like that where maybe the 49ers, don't sign him right away as soon as the season ends and they're not able to keep him. But free agency starts, he goes and he makes a few visits and comes back to the 49ers and they either get a deal done or he's gone. If it happens, I think that would be the scenario. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I would be open to it to a certain extent, definitely more open to it than what I was now that it looks like Ayuk's certainly not coming back. But I'm also not going to overpay for him. I think, first of all, I don't want anything more than 2 years with out and out after that third year because I believe he's going to be 29 next year. So I don't want to see him past that age 30 without some sort of out in the contract. So like a 2-and-1 type deal. And I probably don't want more than about $13 to $14 million for him. And so I think anything above that, I would be uncomfortable with. But, the 49ers are smart. They'll do what's right for them as well. So maybe there's a path for him to come back. I would still say it's less likely than it is likely, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's scary looking at next season what the wide receiver room is going to be then.
Yeah, I mean it is, but obviously, they'll end up signing somebody in free agency somewhere, and then you draft a guy. Well, I'll tell you this: if Ricky Pearsall doesn't make it through the rest of the season healthy or doesn't make an impact, then JJ has to be brought back.
Right,
like that's what it's going to come down. Like Ricky Pearsall is going to have to show that he's something in this league at this point. Like that has to happen because if it doesn't, then you're right. Then there's literally nothing. There's literally nothing you can hang your hat on. If Ricky Pearsall can show out down the stretch of the season, and I believe he has the skills to do it, stay healthy, that's a whole nother question. Then I think that it makes this easier. But if he doesn't, then JJ does have some leverage for sure, man. He definitely has some leverage with the 49ers.
Yeah, and I mean, ideally, if signing Jennings to that 2-year deal that you mentioned prevents them from spending their top 3 draft picks on a wide receiver, I would be okay with that because I really hope they go offensive line.
Yeah, well, I would too, but also it's the 49ers. They're going to do both. If they sign Jennings, it's going to happen. I'd almost guarantee it. So there we go. All right, just for the sake of time, I went ahead and made these picks here. Backstage. So you can get a 100% deposit match of up to $100 when you use promo code LSS on Sleeper. You can play daily fantasy, weekly fantasy, yearly fantasy. We've got our Dynasty League. Sunil's ran Dynasty League right here through Sleeper for sure. Even before they were a sponsor, that's how much we liked Sleeper. But we also like to have a little skin in the game. And so this week's picks are such. Thursday night football game, I got Dak Prescott in the free pick. This is what I love about Sleeper. They always give us a free pick as well. Just needs 1 passing yard and we win there. I've got Aubrey with the more on 1.5 field goals. So we just need 2 field goals from Aubrey. We got Jared Goff. I'm going to fade him. I got him less on the 251.5 passing yards, but I do have Jahmyr Gibbs going more on the 72.5 rushing yards. $10 to win 71.80. You can tail me. You can fade me, but make sure you use promo code LSS. Link is pinned to the top of the description. Sign up today using the promo code to get a 100% deposit match. All right, let's talk about the path to the number 1 seed. This one is interesting because you and I were texting yesterday. You reached out, you said, "Hey, how impressed were you with the win?" We kind of went back and forth there. And then you said, "Hey, 49ers got a chance to the number 1 seed." And I said, "Yeah, pump the brakes a little bit. It's not very likely." But there is certainly a path. There is absolutely a path. So let's talk about the path to the number 1 seed, which also means they would have to win the division. And I want to point this out real quick before we talk about the full path. The Rams schedule is such. So let's pick the Rams down the stretch. We'll go wins and losses because I just want to see what the chances are that we even win the division first, right? We gotta win the division before we get the number 1 seed. So Rams have Cardinals this weekend. Who are you picking in that one?
So before we say this, we have to also make it clear the 49ers have the best conference record and the best division record.
They do.
So
they're
have
going to
all
own the tiebreakers here. Yes.
So I think that's key. That's key.
It is
right?
important. It is important. But we need the Rams to lose at least one more, right?
Yeah.
And the 49ers, and really to feel good about it, you almost need the Rams to lose twice. And Seattle, you get to play. So that's one loss there. If they pick up another loss, they're good to go.
We're talking just the NFC,
Yeah, we're talking NFC West because you got to win the division. So can we find 2 losses on the Rams schedule? That's the question. So they've got
a win against Arizona.
Okay, but then they've got the Lions at home the next week. We can see that being a loss, right? I mean, the Lions are going to be desperate. They're going to need to win.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
So that could be a loss.
Then we got the Rams in prime time traveling to play the Seahawks. I could see them losing that game. That first one was close, and Sam Darnold threw 4 picks just to even make it that way.
And the Rams are looking like they're not looking like world beaters either, right? So they just came off a tough loss. I think some of the wins, you look at the wins and they've been nice, but I mean, you look at their record and it's nice, but you deeply dissect those games and there's been flaws with this Rams team as well. But definitely the Lions, definitely the Seahawks. So there's 2 potential losses right there.
Okay, and then they got the Falcons in Atlanta.
Most likely a win.
Yeah, and then you got the Rams. Rams finishing up against the Cardinals again.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say worst case scenario if I'm a Rams fan is 3-2.
Yeah,
but
there's a path to 2 losses there.
Yes,
for sure. Okay. So that's what we need. I mean, because it's not just one loss, because the 49ers are likely going to lose one more, right? So even if they lose one more, they need the Rams to lose twice. So let's look at the Seahawks schedule. They've got the Falcons. I think we would favor them versus the Falcons. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They're at home against the Colts. The Colts are struggling. I would favor them against the Colts, but you never know. I mean, the Colts getting desperate. They could need that win too.
Colts did just lose Sauce, it looks like.
For some time I know as well. I'll favor them.
Yeah, but it could be a loss as well.
The problem is now they play the Rams, and yes, we can see them losing to the Rams, but then if they lose to the Rams, that doesn't help the other algorithm. So we almost need them to win that game.
Right, but it's another potential loss.
Right. Now, this is a potential loss too, because one thing that we've seen all year long is the Panthers at home are not the same team as they are on the road. That is a fact. They go to North Carolina and play the Panthers. After
who are going to be desperate as well.
Rams. Right. So I could see that being a loss. And then, of course, they travel week 18 to Santa Clara to play the 49ers. That's a potential loss. There's 4 potential losses on that schedule for them.
Right.
So we almost need them to beat the Rams and then lose 2 of 3 against either the Colts, the Panthers, and then obviously the 49ers have got to beat them. So there is a path to winning the division. Is it a big one? Maybe not, but there's certainly a chance. And then outside of that, what do we think the 49ers need to do? So we've got the Titans, we've got the Colts, we've got the Bears, we've got the Seahawks. What do the 49ers need to do down the stretch in order to have a path at the number 1 seed, in your opinion? Realistically.
Obviously, to lock it, they need to run the table, right? If they get to 13 wins, I think that...
If they run the table, they're going to be the number 1 seed. I'll say that right now. I believe they will be, yeah.
So, but I think no worse than 3-1, right? And one of those can't be Seattle, right? So, or the Bears, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
So as long as they could beat the Bears, the Titans, and the Seahawks, and let's just give the loss to the Colts, I think they're in pretty good position because of how their conference record is. That
Mm-hmm.
they would potentially that would put them at 12 wins, which I think is where most of the teams in the NFC are going to be, and I think they have the
Yeah.
best conference record, which would potentially put them at the 1 seed.
Yeah, well, the good news is the Bears and the Packers play. The Bears and the Lions, I believe, play. So that's some good news there. So yeah, I think the hard part is that the Eagles have a really, really easy schedule, like super duper easy. Like they got to play the banged up Commanders twice. Um, Not that they're playing the best football, but I mean, they've got I think they play like the Giants, the Commanders twice, and then like some other crappy team. So their schedule is pretty easy. But, the path is certainly there. Certainly, if the 49ers went out, that's probably their most realistic shot. 3-1, beating the Bears, beating the Seahawks is a part of that. There is a path. There's certainly a path to number one seed, but really there's for sure a path to win the division. There really is. And that didn't seem realistic a week ago.
No, I mean, and what I like about where this, because I know, I'm more optimistic, and you're more, you'll call it realistic, I call it pessimistic. But but no, but the great thing I like about these last 4 games, right? They have the easier game against Tennessee, but then the last 3 games are going to be either playoff, like 2 of them are going to probably be playoffs with Seattle and Chicago, and Indy, if the playoffs started today, would be in the playoffs. So we really get to see this team kind of be able to get into playoff mode right from the jump, right? Because if they run Indy, the Bears, and Seattle,
Seahawks.
and they end up getting the bye, right? And everything goes through Santa Clara, including the Super Bowl.
Good point. Yeah.
Jesse, like I'm
Good
like
point.
Jesse,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there's something, like, momentum is a big thing, right? And sometimes these things right themselves. And with the year that the 49ers have zero chance, nobody's giving them any chance, right? I don't know. Obviously this all could end quick with 2 losses, right? They could lose to Tennessee and we're just like, all right, that's nothing. But I'm just saying, like, if they go and they run the table, right? Or they beat Indy, Bears, and Seattle, who wants to play the 49ers in the playoffs in the NFC? Who would want that?
I don't think anybody wants
they're
to play
tough out,
them,
right?
No. Yeah, they are. They're definitely a tough out. Well, I was just looking at the Eagles schedule just for S's and G's. Eagles play the Commanders twice. They play the Raiders. Obviously, those are the easier games, but they play the Chargers in LA and Buffalo in Buffalo, man. That's 2 potential losses for them too. Right. So, man, the path it's there, man. Yeah. If the 49ers run the table, they're going to be the number 1 seed. If they run the table, they will be the number 1 seed. And the other thing that we talk about is the Bears and Seahawks. Yes, 2 very good teams, but both those are at home. Both of them are at home, and that is a massive advantage. You're not having to travel to Chicago or even back to Seattle. You already had to go there week 1. This is a major advantage for the 49ers, man. The path is certainly there. I don't think it's likely.
Jesse's coming to my side. Jesse's coming to my side.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm starting to sway a little bit. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. If it comes down to week 18, most likely, first of all, any game that's of importance, Sam Darnold's going to shit the bed. That's just what he does. That's number 1. But number 2, I think I'm going to be in attendance for that game. Shout out to Fanatics. I believe they're sending me to that game. Nice. So if that is the case, I know I lost one earlier this year. I got it. But I usually win when I'm in attendance. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Tie-dye shirt doesn't come out.
Yeah, the tie-dye shirt's not coming. It's definitely going to be a different shirt. That one we're retiring. It's over. It's a wrap for that one. But
on a more serious note, Jesse, I just think that, like, both of us going into this season we thought this was a reset year, right? And obviously Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh have done an amazing job, like building this team. Then you see the injuries that they had to overcome, and obviously losing Bosa and Warner. You thought that, you know, there's zero chance, but like I said, a lot is gonna be told in the next month of football for the 49ers. And we get to see if this is just you know, flash in the pan type of thing, or can this team potentially be a threat and make it to this? Because what we didn't expect was there be so many flaws with the NFC teams at the top as well, right? There's nobody that is just head and shoulders above. A lot of people were feeling the Rams were that way. And then you see them against Carolina and you're like, wait a minute, right? Every team you could look at and point to, there's weaknesses there. And in a year where there's that is that wide open, not only on the NFC, man, the Patriots aren't on the other side. I mean, I'm not sorry, the Patriots are on the other, but the Chiefs aren't on the other side where there's this dominant AFC team either. This is a year where it's up in the air. And why not the 49ers when there's this much kind of still yet to be determined? The 49ers could definitely fit into that mold, because I think one thing that they're going to have, which potentially wasn't as big of a gap, I think their coaching staff this year is better than most every other coaching staff they're going to go against in these playoffs, which is, I think, a huge advantage when there's this much kind of up in the air.
It is a huge advantage. It definitely is. You've also got a quarterback with playoff experience, which is a huge advantage. You know, you look at teams like Chicago, they would have a quarterback that doesn't have a playoff extensive history, so they'd be at a disadvantage. We already know what Sam Darnold is, or we expect him to continue to be, so that's not an advantage. Now, obviously, you've got Hurts, who one of the best playoff quarterbacks of all time. I mean, he puts it on in the playoffs. You got to give him credit for sure. But, you know, you look at a team like Dallas, if they snuck in, Dak's had his woes, Jordan Love's had his woes. So really, it's like you're looking at Goff's had his for sure. So it's like literally like Stafford and Hurts are the two quarterbacks that really are the ones where you're like, okay, you know, those might be your tougher outs. But yeah, none of these teams, I mean, the Rams defense is stacked on paper, but gosh, man, they just have these lapses twice against the 49ers. We saw it last week against the Panthers. It's just like, what, are they really a good defense? I don't know about that. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things going on. This question here was the one that I was saving. I think this is a really, really good question. It says, if the 49ers make the playoffs, who do you think they have the best chance of beating in the first round? Well, let's go based off the teams that are in the playoffs right now. So we've got the Rams, we've got the Seahawks, we've got the Eagles, we've got the Bucks, we've got
Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks I already said. Oh, the Packers, the Bears, and then the 49ers. I mean, the Bears, obviously, that would be my choice, just because I would love to get Caleb Williams in first year in the playoffs. Would probably be my choice.
I think the Bears, Seahawks, and Bucks, to me, are
I don't want to play the Bucks at all. The Bucks are going to be getting Mike Evans back and Kalijah Cansey back before the playoffs. Bucky Irvin is just now getting work back in. Also, McMillan it just got cleared, so he'll be coming back. I think it's really hard to cover an offense that has Bucky Irving, McMillan, Ibuka, Godwin, Evans, Cade Otton. I mean, that's a lot to handle. And then a defense that's getting Kalijah Cansey back, who's been out all year. I mean, that solidifies their defensive line. I personally don't want any part of the Bucks. I would feel much more comfortable with the Bears, but you know,
I think the Bears obviously are number one. But if we're saying opportunities, I mean, all those guys are coming back, but what level they're coming back to is important as well, right? And Baker is injured as well. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's a path. I think the teams that I want to stay away from are the teams that you just mentioned, right? I'd want to stay away from the Rams. I'd want to stay away from the Eagles. But anybody else, potentially, none of those teams are proven.
Would we fear, but we wouldn't fear any team. Let's make that clear.
No.
I'm not saying that the 49ers have zero shot against any of those teams. None of them are world beaters, right? Like not a single one of them are world beat, Eagles included. Packers, give me the Packers too. I'll play the Packers. I don't have any issue playing the Packers. Now going to Lambeau, not necessarily ideal, but the 49ers have some history winning in Lambeau multiple times now. So, that's not necessarily the gauntlet either. The Eagles are a team that Hurts plays really well in the playoffs, and maybe he steps it up. But man, right now that offense is really, really struggling. He'd really have to step it up in order for them to turn into the team that they were last year, or even close to it. So they can beat any of those teams. The Bears are the one team though that I would just say, yeah, give me that team. That's the one I want.
Yeah, and the thing that I think giving me a little bit more confidence, Jesse, is Myles Garrett has been on a tear. Right. And he had one sack against the 49ers, but that offensive line held up a lot better than I think a lot of people expected. And, people thought that Brock Purdy was going to be sacked, multiple times. And it really wasn't that. And I think obviously a lot of credit goes to Brock Purdy for getting it out of his hands quick and throwing the ball away versus trying to make a hero play. I think that is the way Purdy needs to be playing moving forward. But I think this offensive line is a lot better than what people give them credit for. And, going up against a Micah Parsons, going up against, some of these, Carter from the Eagles, or, all the guy Verse and all those guys that the Rams have. I think I'm a little more confident in this offensive line than I was maybe a few weeks ago with, just the way that they've performed. Right. So to me, I think that's what gives me a little bit more confidence as well, because I thought that would be the biggest thing, that this offense wouldn't be able to do much because, all the defensive lines that they're going to have to go against in the playoffs.
I think it's teams with interior pass rushers that probably would worry me a little bit more. And that's why, I look at the Bucs. If they were to get Kalijah Cansey back, you add in Vita Vea, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch up the middle. So, that one wouldn't be my favorite matchup. The Eagles are a team that is tough too, just because they're very well coached with Vic Fangio there, but then they just they're that one team that like just sends waves and waves and waves of players at you. But you're right, man. Overall the offensive line has held up really well, and Brock Purdy, whether his toes affect him or not, even against the Jags, it didn't seem to affect his mobility portion at the very least. He's still very quick-footed. There was a couple times this last week where he evaded some pressure, and to your point, as long as he's making good decisions when he's evading pressure, then we're fine with it. It's just please don't go YOLO and throw it back across your body into the middle of the field. Like that's not ideal. So, but yeah, the combination of those two is better than what we potentially thought. Bill says, I agree with Jesse, 2-2 in the last 4. Yeah, I think yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday, I said that I think the 49ers go 2-2 in the last 4. Realistically, what do you think the actual record is down the stretch? Not
I think
who they
2-2
lose
is
to,
safe, but I really think that 3-1.
I think 3-1 is a real possibility.
Yeah,
too. I do. I'm going 2-2, but I definitely could see 3-1.
And the fact that you went 2-2, Jesse, gives me more confidence that it's going to be 3-1. Because based off of when we did this a few weeks ago, you said that the 49ers are going to finish 9-8, and they already got their 9 wins. So, so if Jesse says 2-2, I'm gonna double down on 3-1.
The good news is this, though, is that the 49ers, just to get to the playoffs, need 11 wins. They're going to get 10 against the Titans, and then they just have to find a way to win one of those final 3. And as long as they do that, they're basically a lock to get in. So that's the great news, and they're going to find a way to win one of those final 3. They're not going to get swept. That's for damn sure. So the 49ers, at the very least, should be in the playoffs, regardless of seeding, and that's a big deal. Food Facts Every Day says bad wide receiver and QB draft, need left tackle and left guard. Trent will be 38. I don't disagree with that. They definitely do need some offensive line help. I think that both of us would prefer that. They don't need a quarterback. They've got the Maple Missile, who can be the backup next year. So we're feeling good about that one. And we would prefer that they didn't necessarily draft a wide receiver, but they're probably going to have to draft one somewhere. And we'll see what ends up happening there. Sunil, we did have one more topic, but I got to make sure that we get out of here on time. I got to get to the NFC West roundtable. Appreciate you for joining me on Tuesday as always. Everybody in the chat, man, enjoy the bye week. I think tomorrow night I'll probably do an open mic night. So for those of you that want to call in, get your takes off, that would be the night to do it. I think tomorrow around 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll have about 45 to 50 minutes where you guys can call in. So definitely do that. Sunil, have a wonderful night. Chat, have a wonderful night. Come over to the NFC West Roundtable. Check us out. Support your Niners. We'll see you there in about 4 minutes. Much love. Peace.